Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor, and today morning we'll be focusing on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Canada. We'll get you all the details, but first up, the headlines. Prime Minister meets Indian community in Berlin, says that transforming India into a manufacturing hub is the need of the hour. Naxalite strike twice in Chhattisgarh, 5 Jawans killed, many others injured in Kanker and Dantewada districts. Government notifies National Judicial Appointments Commission Act, ends 2-decade-old collegium system of appointing judges of Supreme Court and High Courts. BJP Party President Amit Shah to kickstart the BJP's campaign for the Bihar Assembly elections. Rally for party workers today coinciding with Ambedkar Jayanti. Well, the big story of the day, after making a strong pitch for his Make in India agenda to German investors in Hanover on Monday evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told the Indian community in Berlin that the need of the hour is to make India a manufacturing hub. He called this much more than an economic mission for him, labeling it a self-respect movement. Here is more. All right, we seem to be having some problem there. We'll get back all the details. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will land in Canadian capital Ottawa this evening to begin the third and final leg of his tour. Modi's two-day visit to Canada is the first bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister in 42 years. A long-stalled Foreign Investment Protection Pact and a treaty for supply of uranium from Canada are treatments that are likely to be signed during the visit. The two countries are also negotiating a free trade agreement, but progress has been slow. After Ottawa, where the Prime Minister will have official meetings with Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper and other leaders, Modi is also to visit Toronto and Vancouver.
The Prime Minister doing what he does best, mingling with the crowds, in this case, the eagerly waiting Indian diaspora in Berlin. After the trade focus and Make in India pitch in Hanover, Prime Minister Modi reached out to Indians here at a community reception in his honour. Once again, though, the focus remained India's potential as a manufacturing hub.
नौजवानों के हाथ में हुनर हो, स्किल हो, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के लिए बहुत बड़ा अवकाश हो और भारत एक ऐसा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बने जहां लो कॉस्ट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो, zero defect, zero effect manufacturing ho.
Earlier in the day, Modi had visited the Siemens Technical Academy in Berlin, where he was briefed on technological advancements under application. The Prime Minister carried the message of technical and technological growth alongside a focus on the environmental aspect to the evening meet.
Environment पर इसका कोई इफेक्ट न हो, उस प्रकार के प्रोसेस को हमने स्वीकार करना होगा, क्योंकि ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, क्लाइमेट चेंज, ये जो सारी दुनिया चिंता कर रही है, उन समस्याओं से निकलने का रास्ता हिंदुस्तान ही दिखा सकता है.
Among Modi's other key appointments on Monday, a meeting with the German Vice Chancellor and Minister of Economics and Energy Sigmar Gabriel. He also met the kin of freedom fighter Subhash Chandra Bose. The meeting comes in the backdrop of a row over alleged snooping on Bose's family members. The Prime Minister ended the Germany leg of his tour on Monday. He now heads to Ottawa in Canada for the last part of his three-nation visit. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be going to Canada as the third part of his Europe tour. Let's get a perspective on that story. Mr. Trividesh Singh Meni, who is the Senior Research Associate, Jindal School of International Studies, is now joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning on Rajya Sabha TV. So how do you see this visit of Narendra Modi to Canada, considering the fact that it's been almost 40 years that any Prime Minister of the country visited that country? How important is this visit going to be?
Okay. I think basically there are 2-3 aspects to it. The first is, this government has, Prime Minister Modi especially, has reached out to countries which have been, it has been felt that they have been ignored. I mean, the bilateral relationships were strong, but you did not have any high-level visits. So in that context, if you look at the whole, you look at France, Germany and Canada, basically it's reaching out to what are the middle powers. And the second aspect is that Prime Minister Modi has already, is familiar with Canada because Canada was one of the partner states in the Vibrant Gujarat Summit.
Yes.
And the third aspect is that, there's a strong, Prime Minister Modi has also been successful at reaching out to the Indian diaspora. And there is a vibrant diaspora in Canada. I mean, it's much lesser in numbers than the diaspora in the US, but it is extremely influential, especially in politics. So that is an important aspect. And finally, I think both, Commonwealth countries, and not just Commonwealth countries, but with similar political systems, federal systems. And I think what India can really learn from Canada is also about, Prime Minister Modi has been emphasizing about the need for provinces to reach out to the rest of the world. A lot of Canadian provinces by themselves have been reaching out to other parts of the world and, seeking foreign direct investment. So I think these 3-4 aspects are especially important, I think, in the context.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the Vibrant Gujarat Summit. Obviously, Canada was one of the nations that participated in that Vibrant Gujarat Summit. And at that time, it was said that Prime Minister Modi had actually wanted to come to Canada for a long time back, at that time only, but for certain reasons they were postponed. So how is this the visit to Canada is so important, especially if you look at the trade ties between the two nations?
I think trade is about 6 billion and there's potential for much more. But as I said, I think it's important because it's, for example, just like Australia, it's similar to Australia. If you look at the political stands of Canada globally, while it's close to North America, it's part of North America, it's part of the North American Free Trade Agreement. But I think politically it's neutral on a lot of issues. So I think in political terms and as well as the similarities, as I said, between India and Canada, I think there is a lot to be gained. And even the sort of worldview, especially on economics, is very similar of both leaders. I mean, Prime Minister Modi and Premier Harper of Canada. So I think these are the similarities.
But important thing is that a more expansive Canada-India free trade agreement, if we talk about, there have been negotiations on this for about 5 years now. But it has remained an aspirational goal. So can we expect some more development? Can we expect these negotiations to finally bear some fruits?
I think definitely. I think obviously, both sides will have certain issues on which, it will be tough to make too much progress right away. To expect, big bang progress is wishful thinking. But whatever it is, when the leaderships of two sides engage, I think things do change. And secondly, we could also have a situation where, like in the case of the US, you have a diaspora investment initiative that could be looked at, and in that I think the Indian diaspora in Canada could also play a positive role, not just in this sort of agreement in influencing their policymakers, but also in pushing greater B2B interactions.
All right. But there have been certain issues, the sensitive issues rather, which has been said that India is a highly protected market, and obviously and there has been entrenched positions on both the sides.
Right.
Prime Minister Modi, when we saw that he went to Germany, he gave a lot of assurances, especially in terms of investment. So can we expect some more the assurances from Prime Minister on this front as well?
I think definitely. I mean, basically, as I said, both sides have to take 5 steps forward. Canada will also have to move in, within one day we cannot change us. It depends upon, what we get in return. But I think when the leaderships engage, I think things do change. And I mean, as I said, there's been a lag of about 4 decades. Earlier prime ministers have been going, but that's on the sidelines of multilateral summits. So if this is high on the agenda, definitely we can find a way out. And we should also explore areas like energy, and I think basically it once again it sends a positive signal in any case that to Canada, like to many other countries who have been keen to engage with India, that we are ready, we will open out. And apart from the agreement is one part of it. Even in business, as I said, there are many other avenues. In education, as it is, we have been, a large number of students go, professionals are there, there's a large number of immigrant population. So I think it's a blend of, the relationship has to be a blend of a bit of emotion, which is the diaspora over there, as well as realism. So that's how I would put it in that sense.
Right. You also mentioned about the Prime Minister obviously engaging with the diaspora there. obviously he's slated to go to Toronto, Vancouver, obviously which has the largest concentration of Indo-Canadians there. So will it be just a matter of just interaction with the Indian diaspora, or should we look more into it?
I think there are a lot of issues. I mean, first of all, the community over there, because of the period of militancy in Punjab, there were issues about them coming back, so there were visa issues. So like the diaspora elsewhere, they definitely have this yearning to do something for their motherland, but I think there is a lot of red tape and bureaucracy which needs to be addressed. And I think in that sense this is also interesting, because this time he's going to be engaging with predominantly in the US it was the Gujarati diaspora, in Australia also the large section of that. So this time there's a blend, there's a strong Gujarati diaspora, but you have the Punjabi diaspora, you have other communities as well. So that way it's going to be interesting. It sends a very positive signal that to the rest sections of the diaspora as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Meni, for joining us and sharing your perspective on that story. So everyone is really looking forward to Prime Minister's last leg of his visit to Canada. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Meanwhile, back home, Naxals struck Chhattisgarh for the 4th time in 3 days on Monday. At least 5 Jawans were killed in 2 separate attacks at Kanker and Dantewada districts. An unspecified number of personnel were also injured. Here are the details.
Barely 48 hours after the attack in Sukma district, Maoists struck once again on Monday in 2 separate attacks. In the first attack early on Monday morning, the extremists opened indiscriminate fire on patrolling BSF Jawans in Kanker district. 1 Jawan was killed in the attack.
BSF का जो छोटे बेटा में कैंप है PS बांधे अंतर्गत, वहाँ पर पार्टी आर्ट्स पे निकली हुई थी, पैदल पार्टी थी। वहाँ पर नक्सलियों द्वारा घात लगाकर हमला किया गया, एक्सचेंज ऑफ फायर हुआ वहाँ पर, और वहाँ पर हमारे BSF के 171 बटालियन के जवान जो रमेश चंद्र हैं, वो घायल हो गए थे, जिन्हें हॉस्पिटल लाया गया। वहाँ पर डॉक्टर ने बताया कि शहीद हो गए।
Later in the day, Maoists triggered a landmine blast, killing 4 Jawans and injuring many others in Dantewada district.
करीब 2 किलोमीटर दूर चोलनार से किरंदुल की ओर में एक बहुत बड़ा ब्लास्ट हुआ है। वो क्रिटिकल थे, शायद 4 जवान हमारे शहीद हुए और बाकियों को एयरलिफ्ट करके लाया जा रहा है।
Home Minister Rajnath Singh condemned the attack, even as he lauded the bravery of the Jawans.
पुलिस के सारे उन जवानों को, उनके साहस और पराक्रम का मैं अभिनंदन करना चाहता हूं, उनको बधाई देना चाहता हूं, पूरी बहादुरी के साथ वो लड़े हैं।
State leaders also expressed concern over the rising number of the Maoist attacks.
पहले घटनाएं हो गई हैं, उनसे सबक न लेने के कारण ही ये घटना हुई है। नक्सलियों ने एक तरह से ट्रैप लगाया और उस ट्रैप में हमारे पुलिस वाले फंस गए और बहादुर जवान मारे गए।
Meanwhile, bodies of the 7 STF personnel who were killed in the Naxal ambush on Saturday were recovered from the site. Bad weather and rough terrain had prevented search teams from reaching the spot. The government also decided to confer gallantry awards on those who were killed in the ambush. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in other news, the government today brought into force the controversial law to appoint members to the higher judiciary. In fact, that happened yesterday. The notification issued says judges will be chosen by the National Judicial Appointments Commission, a team of 6 members that includes the Chief Justice of India, the 2 most senior judges of the Supreme Court, 2 eminent persons and the Law Minister. The 2 eminent Indians will be chosen in turn by the Chief Justice, the Prime Minister and the leader of the largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha. The decision comes 2 days before the Supreme Court will hear a clutch of petitions challenging the National Judicial Appointments Commission Act. And the Supreme Court on Monday refused to stay the controversial land ordinance re-promulgated by the centre. But the apex court did agree to examine the constitutionality of the president's power to re-promulgate the ordinance on the ground that it subverted the legislative process. It also sent a notice to the union government on a plea by several farmers' bodies. Now, seeking the centre's stand on the plea, the court asked the government to hand over all records leading to re-promulgation of the ordinance and sought a response in 4 weeks. But even as it issued the notice, it told the petitioners' counsel that the petition may become fructious in a while, hinting that the upper house of parliament might, after all, pass the bill. The contentious ordinance has already been passed by the Lok Sabha.
देखो, उम्मीद सरकार से तो उम्मीद नहीं रही, लेकिन न्यायालय से उम्मीद है और हमने यहाँ पर डाला है। ये पूर्ण रूप से उम्मीद है कि किसानों के हक में ये फैसला होगा।
कोई न कोई सुप्रीम कोर्ट के संज्ञान में बात आई होगी, जो नोटिस दिया है उसका जवाब सरकार देगी। लेकिन जो संशोधन ये लोकसभा में पास करा चुके हैं और फिर वो लैप्स हो रहा था, राज्यसभा से पास नहीं हो सका और फिर दोबारा ऑर्डिनेंस लाए हैं, वो किसान विरोधी है, वो मजदूर विरोधी है।
All right, we'll step into a very short break here. Still to come, the erstwhile Janta Parivar likely to make a formal announcement on its merger today. That and much more after a short break. Stay with us.
Tradition dating back centuries. A cultural heritage that inspires and warms at once. Magic that awes. Rajya Sabha Television brings you events that embrace the wonders of India's classical arts. Conversations with the biggest names in the culture and music. Rajya Sabha Television, democracy at work.
Welcome back after the break. Now, the Congress party has finalized its plans for the year-long celebrations of the 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar. The celebrations will begin with the low-key function in Madhya Pradesh on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the issue of Rahul Gandhi's elevation to the post of party president continued to cast a shadow over the events in the opposition party.
A string of electoral defeats has put the Congress party under a lot of pressure. Now, in a bid to recover lost ground, the party is reaching out to Dalits and plans to hold a series of events throughout the year to mark the 125th birth anniversary of Bhimrao Ambedkar.
कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट श्रीमती सोनिया गांधी जी ने 125वीं डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर की जयंती पूरे साल भर करने के लिए कमेटी स्थापित की है।
However, what remained top focus at the meet was the debate over whether or not Rahul Gandhi should be elevated to the post of party president. Congress's deputy leader in the Lok Sabha, Captain Amrinder Singh, reiterated his comments asking Sonia to continue at the helm of affairs, evoking sharp reactions.
सोनिया जी जो पार्टी को 44 सीटों 44 सीटों के लेके ऊपर जाएंगे, that is what we have been saying. Let Mr. Rahul Gandhi carry on with his mother as the second in command and eventually वो ऊपर आ जाएंगे. But आज इमेज है कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट की और हम चाह रहे हैं कि कांग्रेस प्रेसिडेंट हमारी पार्टी को ऊपर लेके जाए।
अगर ऐसी कोई भी बात जो पार्टी की लीडरशिप के बारे में कोई चर्चा करनी थी, वो कांग्रेस प्रधान अध्यक्षा के 4 दीवारों में होनी चाहिए ऑफिस की, या कांग्रेस वर्किंग कमेटी में ऐसी बात उठानी चाहिए। ये जो सभी टीवी चैनल्स के सामने जाना और पिछले 15 दिनों में चौथी दफा राहुल जी के खिलाफ जाना एक साजिश है।
Senior leaders though refused to comment.
This is not an occasion to bring that subject here.
अंतोनी साहब बताए, अगर हाउस में कोई विषय आएगा तो उस वक्त मैं बताऊंगा कि हाउस में क्या बोल रहा है, क्या विषय आएगा।
Rahul Gandhi, who is on a sabbatical since the first day of the budget session, is expected to take part in the public rally being organized by the Congress on the issue of land bill on 19th April. He is also slated to participate in the national launch of Ambedkar's 125th birth anniversary celebrations in Mau. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's take a look at what all is lined up for the day ahead. The merger of Janta Parivar is likely to be officially announced by Samajwadi Party President Mulayam Singh Yadav in New Delhi today. Reports say the leaders of the 6 political parties, Samajwadi Party, RJD, JDU, INLD, Samajwadi Janta Party and JDS have approved the draft document of the Janta Parivar merger. The merger had been in the offing following their disastrous performance in the Lok Sabha elections last year. The 21st Congress of the CPIM will start today in Visakhapatnam. The 6-day-long meet is aimed at chalking out a strategy to rebuild and strengthen the party, besides electing the new General Secretary. Sitaram Yechuri is tipped to take over from Prakash Karat, who has been at the helm for the last 10 years. BJP President Amit Shah and Home Minister Rajnath Singh will launch the campaign for Bihar Assembly polls at the Mega Workers Convention in Patna today. They will address party workers from over 62,000 booths across the state. The campaign is being launched on the 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar and is aimed at wooing the Dalit votes in the state. Aam Aadmi Party dissident leaders Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav will hold a Swaraj Samvad convention in Gurgaon today. The rebel leaders will discuss the future course of action after their expulsion from the party's national executive. AAP has warned of action against party members attending that event. Today is the 125th birth anniversary of B.R. Ambedkar. On the occasion, a function to pay floral tributes will be held in the Central Hall, where his statue is being put up. Baba Sahab Bhimrao Ambedkar was independent India's first law minister and the principal architect of the Constitution of India. And on to international news now. Well, it's 1 year to the day today since the Boko Haram abducted more than 200 girls aged between 12 and 17 from Chibok town in Nigeria. Now, some 50 had escaped the night of the attack, but other than a brief appearance in a propaganda film, most of them have not been seen since. Now, this grim sequence of events will be remembered across Nigeria today in various awareness events across the country. Here is more.
1 year on from that ugly landmark, the country still hopes against hope that all of them will return safe one day. Most of the girls are still missing. Despairing parents say that they cannot do anything but hope. Events marking 1 year since the abduction began on Monday in the country's capital, Abuja.
Yes, that's my prayer. By God's grace, they will be back. And they will be back. All our parents will be happy again. We will be happy. All Nigeria will be happy about it.
We have been praying for the safe return of these girls, and there have been so many people out there also praying and crying for the safe return of these children of ours, sisters of ours, and friends of ours. So we've not failed in our efforts in terms of prayer to ensure that these children return safely.
On 14th of April last year, 276 girls aged 12 to 17 were kidnapped by Boko Haram militants. At least 57 of them later managed to flee. Boko Haram leader Abu Bakr Shekau had claimed responsibility for the abduction in a video, vowing to sell the girls as slaves. The kidnapping set off an international outcry, leading to a campaign called Bring Back Our Girls. Over the last year, several high-profile personalities have joined in, including Michelle Obama and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai. Members of the group say over 200 schoolgirls are still being held by the extremists. Though a woman told the BBC she had seen some 50 of the abducted girls alive in the northeastern Gwaza town before the Boko Haram militants were driven out there by regional forces.
There are times that you are in pain that you don't even, to the extent that you don't say a word. People talk to you, you have no answers for them. So for us, we have reached this moment where tomorrow is going to be 1 year. And it's so painful that sadly we might wake up tomorrow and our girls are still not back. We have talked and talked and talked and talked for 364 days today. So we feel it's time to just go silent and express our pain by being quiet.
Efforts to find the girls have had no success so far, even with the help of Western military spy planes and hostage negotiation experts. Hundreds of parents have announced that they will protest once again to demand the help from the government and other countries. Many hope that new President-elect Muhammadu Buhari, due to take office on 29th of May after defeating President Jonathan at the polls last month, will accelerate the search. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in the bulletin, we'll take another short break here. All the sports update on the other side. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.
हमारे जीवन में बदलाव लाने वाले विज्ञान के ऐतिहासिक प्रयोगों, जिन्होंने एक्सरे, पेनिसिलिन, हरित क्रांति, ग्रीन हाउस प्रभाव, अर्धचालकों और रक्त समूहों की खोजों में योगदान दिया। आप जानेंगे पाचन की प्रक्रिया, मॉर्गन, ग्रिफिथ और सर सीवी रमन के प्रयोगों को डॉक्यूमेंट्री सीरीज कुछ तुक्के कुछ तीर में, हर रविवार सुबह 8 बजे सिर्फ राज्यसभा टीवी पर।
Back after the break, and here is some more news and updates from across the world in World Wrap. Russia lifted its self-imposed ban on delivery of a powerful missile air defense system to Iran on Monday, stoking a sharp criticism from the White House and Israel and casting fresh doubt on the international effort to curb Tehran's nuclear program. Moscow is hoping to benefit economically if a final deal is reached after the provisional accord was brokered in Switzerland between Iran and 6 world powers, including Russia. Germany's foreign minister met his Russian, Ukrainian and French counterparts in Berlin on Monday evening to discuss how the Minsk agreement can be put into action as violence has intensified in eastern Ukraine. The ceasefire agreement brokered in Minsk in mid-February is still technically in force, although each side accused the other of intensifying attacks in the past few days. Wildfires in the Russian region in southern Siberia have killed 15 people and caused damage worth at least $96 million. A local healthcare ministry official said that more than 900 people had asked for medical help and about 100 had been taken to hospital as fires raged across grasslands in dry and windy weather over several days. Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida announced on Monday that he is running for president, declaring that he is the best person to lead the United States into another American century. His announcement comes a day after former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton entered the presidential race as a Democratic Party candidate. Two other Republicans, Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz, have also thrown their hat in the ring. One protester was killed and several others shot and wounded on Monday as the Guinean police battled to control violent demonstrations in the capital against the regime of President Alpha Condé. Rioting broke out at around 9:30 a.m. local time in several suburbs, including Simbaya and Hamdale, with the protesters throwing stones and setting fire to tires as the police responded with tear gas. And now time for news from the sporting arena in our sports beat. India will be led by newly crowned world number 1 Sania Mirza as 11 countries strive for honours at Asia-Oceania Group when the Fed Cup tennis competition begins on Tuesday. Sania will be India's playing captain. India's number 1 singles player Ankita Raina, Natasha Palha and G. Thombare are the other members of the team. The Indian women's hockey team hopes to end its 2-match losing run as it takes on Australia in the Base Cup at Hastings Sports Park today. India have lost to China and the United States in their first 2 matches of Pool A in the 8-nation tournament. Although all the teams will automatically qualify for the quarterfinals, a victory against world number 3 Australia will give a lot of confidence to world number 13 India. Ian Bell scored his 22nd Test century as England recovered from a shaky start to the series in the West Indies. Bell made 143 runs as the tourists reached 341 for the loss of 5 wickets at stumps on day 1 of the first Test at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. The home captain Ramdeen won the toss and made the surprising choice to bowl first on a good-looking batting surface. Real Madrid winger Gareth Bale is match fit to face Atletico Madrid in the Champions League quarter-finals first leg after the Welshman was rested for Saturday's La Liga game. There have been other positive signs for Real in recent weeks following the return of Luka Modric and James Rodriguez from injury. Now Cristiano Ronaldo is also firing on all cylinders with 8 goals from 4 games. Well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks for watching. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.